Welcome back to the Power and Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Vanessa Soul. Thank you so much for joining me here. We're talking about Mercury Retrograde and how it relates to our business, what we're doing in our careers, what we're doing in our professional life. So that's what I'm going to give you here in this episode. And every Mercury Retrograde is different. However, what I'm going to mention in today's episode, you can repurpose this conversation for future Mercury retrogrades. So I'm not going to go too much into the sign. Um, well, I'll just state now that we are currently in a Mercury retrograde in the sign of Aries, but I'm not going to cover too much about that. I'm just going to cover some general tools and tips that are very practical, what you need to know on how to work with this energy and not against it. How can you adjust what you're doing in your professional life, in your life purpose, in your career, all those things? How can you work with this energy of the Mercury retrograde? So here we go. And then quick heads up, you might hear some background noise. I have some housekeepers here, and then there's some other things happening in my background, but I wanted to get this podcast episode out today. And I had other ones recorded and ready to go, but I wanted to get this one done because today is the first day of Mercury retrograde. So thanks for being patient, but I have a great mic. So hopefully the mic does its job. All right. So Mercury retrograde, what is it? It is a time to slow down. Doesn't mean we need to just give up on our goals. It doesn't mean, you're not accountable for results. It doesn't mean you could just become lazy all of a sudden. Still keep your intention, but it is a time to kind of not force things. It is a time to go with the flow. It is a time to observe and then kind of like do a conscious intentional dance with the different things happening in your life. Okay, so try not to force anything. um this is a time where technology can get glitchy, miscommunications can happen. um let's see, conversations can kind of feel like a little off. Contracts can feel a little off. Things typically just feel like the momentum is lost or they're not as crystal clear as they once were when we're in some type of Mercury retrograde. So that's why slowing down can really help. Taking a few breaths. If you're having conversations, I would even just slow the conversation down because the way that people are going to comprehend what you're saying is going to be different during a Mercury retrograde. People might take a second to receive the information. I always find myself repeating myself a little bit more during Mercury retrogrades. I don't mind it. It's just an observation. I'll say something and then someone will ask a direct, they'll ask a question that I already answered, and they'll ask it right after I get done talking. So that's just an example of kind of how the communication just needs some extra TLC or just slow down, pause, make sure, tune into the receptivity. That's what this is about. Tune into the receptivity of your clients, of your business partners, of your coworkers. Kind of slow down, do some double checking. It will definitely pay off. So Mercury retrogrades, again, slowing down, and they're also a great time to review and reflect and kind of reassess. This is where we can learn so much about our business. We can learn so much about our clients. We can learn so much about our industry. We can learn so much about changes that are happening. Oftentimes, outside of Mercury retrogrades, things can, time and things can feel like they're moving fast, like bulletproof or bullet train, what am I trying, like a bullet speed. Basically, that's how things can seem like they're going so fast at times. And oftentimes we lose a little bit of some wisdom, or maybe not lose it, but we might rush past some wisdom in typical day-to-day life that if we just slow down, like what a Mercury retrograde calls us to do, we can actually catch the wisdom, integrate, and then use it to improve our business, use it to improve our integrity with our business, or our relationships and our business, something like that. All right, so Mercury rules communication, technology, sales, marketing, contracts, in the way that we think and process information. So when it goes into retrograde, it's like the universe hitting the review button. All right, things slow down so that you could see what's not working, or you could just gain wisdom. If everything seems like it's working fine, beautiful. Now receive some of the wisdom without the hard lessons, you know? So that's really important. So Mercury retrograde typically is not the time to launch new projects. Now, if you already have a new project underway and it was already launched prior to the Mercury retrograde, beautiful. Don't stop working on the project. Keep it going. You had already launched it, right? Before the Mercury retrograde started. But as far as like launching something like brand new, announcing it to the world, I would hold off for the most part. There's a few there's a few caveats there. If you know, but we it would depend on other transits if you're really being called to push something at a particular time, and and if there's other aspects in your chart that are fully in support of you launching something right away, and the Mercury retrograde is the only thing that's kind of contradicting it, then that would be an exception. But of course, you may not know that unless you're an astrologer, or you may not know that unless you're deep into a series of astrology guidance. So let's see. I said, hold off on launching new projects. As far as signing big contracts, I would also wait. When I was a realtor, it was so funny. And I wasn't deep into astrology when I was doing real estate, but the biggest observation is that naturally people were signing less contracts during the Mercury retrogrades for houses, right? I was either representing the buyer or I was representing the seller. And it was so funny that just unless there was some type of bidding war on the house, that was the only exception. But the bidding war, let's stay with me for a second. If there was a bidding war on the house, that means that strategy, because there's a strategy to create a bidding war. I used to love that strategy. That used to be my favorite strategy. I would tell sellers like, hey, hire me if you want to have a bidding war on your house. I know exactly how to do it, right? But even the process for creating that bidding war on a house, if I was the selling agent for that, I would have got all of that into place before the Mercury retrograde was underway. And then by the time the Mercury retrograde was active, all the prep work, everything, all the strategy was locked and loaded by the time the retrograde unfolded. So it really didn't impact it. So then there would be a bidding war, and then people would, basically battle for the house, overbid, get the house, and then they would go into escrow and it'd be a great deal. So that's the exception. But typically, over time, I just realized if it was just a regular real estate transaction, without that bidding war scenario, then it was just very common for people to delay on contracts. Like, oh, I need more time to think about it. I love the house, but something is just telling me I gotta wait. I gotta wait. Or, um, they would wait until the retrograde was over, or if it had just started, they would kind of have something happening in their lives to where they would have to like take a couple week break and then come back and revisit either that house or a completely different house. And so people are in tune with this stuff, even if they don't believe in astrology, even if they don't follow it, they don't care what a Mercury retrograde is. Subconsciously, believe it or not, people are typically moving in alignment with the planets and what's happening. That was my observation in real estate. People typically had more challenges with really feeling confident and strong about submitting a contract on a house during a Mercury retrograde. There were some people that just went ahead and did it. Of course, there's always those few outliers, and and not to say that that was a bad purchase for them if they actually went through with that particular contract. Generally speaking, right? Astrology is about trends. It's about trends. It's about pattern recognition. So there's always outliers. I'm not saying that people don't sign contracts during Mercury retrograde, and I'm not saying that your contract will be unsuccessful or it will be a mistake if you do sign it during Mercury retrograde. What I am saying is that typically the energy is just asking us to reflect and just sleep on it a couple more days. Maybe you hold off the whole entire Mercury retrograde, which should typically last a couple weeks, or maybe the Mercury retrograde just gets you to slow down enough to where if you would have submitted a contract 2 days later, maybe now you're submitting it 7 days later and you're still giving yourself some extra time to really connect with your intuition on that. Okay. So that's going back to just signing big contracts, typically not a great time for that. And looking over details, looking at details in the contracts, refining your messaging, reconnecting with past clients. um, if you're working for a company or if you're working for yourself where you rely on clients, like it's a service-based company, product or service or something like that. We all love new clients, but this is a great time to nurture your existing clients or past clients or your original OG clients. That's what I call mine. The people who were with me my first year that I started my business back in like 2021 or 2022. I call them my OG clients. I even when I send them an email, I'm like, "Hey, OG clients, this is just for you." But yeah, so Mercury retrogrades again. It's not about just giving up on life and not doing anything for the next couple of weeks. It's about revisiting, reviewing, especially when it comes to those that your past clients, your original clients, people who've been with you for a while. Give them some TLC too. Check in with them to see how it's going. That'd be a great use of your time. And then when we come out of the Mercury retrograde, whatever wisdom you're receiving during this time will better align you to move forward with magnetizing those brand new clients that we all love to get. All right. And then last thing I'll say is with this little list here is smooth out anything in your business that's been a little off. you know, I'm an entrepreneur, almost every day I'm like, this thing is like, I'm always aware of when something's off in my business, but how often do I have the time to actually drop everything and focus on that one little screw that is loose? Very rarely. Part of me needs to do it a little bit more. And then part of me, I'm like, man, the train of my business is like a bullet train. Sometimes I have time to slow down and fix the screw and screw it in tighter. And other times I just have to keep going. During Mercury retrograde, it's the time. Slow down your bullet train, realign yourself on the tracks, fix the screw. I'm using analogies, of course, reestablish, realign whatever screws you need to do, whatever's been off in your business, realign it, realign it, realign it. Very, very important. All right. So now here's some practical, that was kind of like the overview. That was the overview. Now I'm going to go through 5 tips on how you can navigate this Mercury retrograde in your business. So number 1, revamp your messaging and your branding. Mercury is our cells. It's our power to sell something with integrity. And honestly, people think sales is like something to be shameful about. It's not. If you're not selling, you're probably not helping people. If you're not selling, you're probably not serving enough people. You need to sell powerfully. But in order to do that, because Mercury is associated with communication, you need to make sure your communication is in alignment. So during this time, revamp your messaging. That might mean making some changes on your website. I'm doing that later today. That's on my to-do list. Revamping your social media messaging, maybe the tone, the messaging, the branding, something around that. You can fine tune that and bring it into alignment. Number 2, reconnect with your audience and your clients. Follow up with past clients, just like I said a moment ago. This is the perfect time for this. And we have 3 of these retrogrades almost every year. Actually, yeah, I think every single year there's 3 retrogrades. So, and they kind of go, spring season, summer, and then fall/winter. So if you're an entrepreneur, you run your own business, you can actually plan to do something special for your past clients during every single Mercury retrograde. That's powerful, and it's a great routine to start. And it gives your business another layer of structure that would help you reach out to people who might have fell through the cracks, or maybe your past clients have a different vibe or different needs than your newer clients. So really including them is important. And then re-engaging your email list, that's another great thing to do. You know, you can send out a few emails with the intention of re-engaging people. If you feel like people have kind of dropped off, this is a perfect time to do that. And just really going deep with your content, being really reflective, resonating on a soul level. This is not the time to be super transactional, like 5 days to sign up for this. I mean, you could, but again, you're kind of going against the energy. I would really just offer deep value that would help people reflect, and that's going to be your sales strategy during a Mercury retrograde. All right, number 3, double check contracts, payments, tech stuff, all that. Payment systems, refunds, auto payments. Make sure all of that is together. And so just the best thing to do, even if you already kind of have all that stuff automated, I would just check in to make sure all the automations are working correctly. Like I use Zapier for a lot of that stuff, and I have a feeling my Zapier is not doing everything I want it to do when it comes to that type of stuff. Like I think that people aren't getting receipts, and I want people to get receipts. So that's something I'm gonna do during this Mercury retrograde. Okay, and then number 4, rework, revise offers. You might need to switch up your offers a little bit, or the features of a service, or something about the product. And this is a great time to also ask for testimonials from your customers and clients, because typically people will give you a great testimonial, and then they might also mention some feedback that you need to know on the side, right? Maybe something was like not all the way 100%, efficient for them, and not that they need to put it in the review or the testimonial, but they could definitely typically, if you ask for it, they'll give you that feedback along when they submit that to you. So that could help you polish up your current offers, update your systems and how people access your products, or how they access your services, that type of thing. Number 5, reflect on your business and career path. This is a great time to make sure that your short-term actions are in alignment with your long-term goals. Really great time. And then retrogrades, especially Mercury, it really encourages to go within and to meditate and journal, and if you might already do that personally, but I suggest journaling about your business. I suggest journaling about certain clients. I suggest journaling about certain offers, journaling about your social media marketing. How do you really feel about it? What are your deeper thoughts about it that aren't coming to the surface right away? But the moment that you pull out your laptop and start journaling about it, it might come through. So this is a great time to reflect on certain aspects of your business. So that is it. Those are my 5 tips on how to work with this energy during the Mercury retrograde. Just flow with it. Don't fight. Don't fight it. Don't fight it. Don't fight it. Update all your computer systems and things like that. And my final thoughts. Mercury retrograde is not a business killer. It's a business refiner. Mercury retrograde is not a business killer. It's a business refiner. Okay. Because when I used to do real estate, I used to think like, oh my gosh, this Mercury retrograde is going to stop all the deals, right? But it really is a time for people to refine things. And then honestly, it helps people prevent buyer's remorse. And so eventually, even as a realtor, I started to just accept the Mercury retrograde, because I knew that I didn't want any clients that regretted buying a house. obviously I wanted to sell houses, but I didn't want them to have that regret if they jumped in it too soon. So eventually you just learn how to work with this, right? You learn how to accept it. And that's about it. So final thoughts, just whatever resonated, yeah, whatever resonated to you from this episode, I would write down two things, right? Two tips for yourself to really keep in your awareness during this Mercury retrograde, and you're good to go. And that is it. That's a wrap. And I also have an astrology blog, so be sure to sign up for my astrology blog. If you sign up during this period of the Mercury retrograde, the first email that you get will be exactly the tips that I just gave you in written format, so you can look deeper into it. And then if you just join at any other time, you'll get whatever transits are happening for that season. Thank you so much for joining me here. Have a beautiful day. Namaste.